What's up, people? Welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestle Update. I'm your host, as always, Dylan Fox, joined, again, as always, by my co-host and good friend, Nello De Angelis. And, Nello, there are certain time periods in all of life, I think, where you're thinking back to a certain thing that happened. A certain moment, really, and you just think back years later, maybe even decades later, where you just think, where was I when that happened? And I think we've reached another one of those moments, and I think we need to talk about it right off the jump. You won at Magic Cards last week.
I did.
And I was very impressed with the new Final Fantasy set you sent me. You've almost got me. I'm a lifelong Yu-Gi-Oh fan. And I've even played Pokemon cards more than Magic. But you are succeeding in getting me into that. I mean, right now, I feel like I'm entering a new level of nerd culture between you getting me into Magic, Sandre Bjorn, my co-host on one of my other shows, Dramatic Dream Dragons, trying to get me into Dungeons and Dragons more. I feel like you've really opened up a new side of me I didn't know about, Nello, and I want to thank you for that. I think this is a historic moment.
Hell yeah. No, Magic is so fun. I got into it like in the past couple months. And yeah, I'm super, super hyped for the Final Fantasy decks. I pre-ordered the Terra and Cloud decks. So I'm excited to hopefully get some more dubs with those bad boys.
Okay, I want to be building up. I'm still a rookie at this, Nello. Like I said, if it was Yu-Gi-Oh, I could swarm everyone. But Magic, I'm still a rookie. I know my limitations. But with the Final Fantasy decks, I know exactly where I'm going for. That Titus and Yuna combo is coming to me, I feel like. But besides Magic, we did have a pretty interesting wrestling show, a pretty newsworthy one to talk about. There's just been a lot going on in wrestling. Things are looking really cool right now for the next near future between the show tonight, Revolution next weekend for AEW, all hits coming into WrestleMania season coming in, as well as the GCW show that you're going to just a little bit later as well. So everybody check that out. Check out, what's the name of that show you're going to?
Oh my God, I have no clue.
It's
it's like GCW, I can't feel my face, or GCW, sorry for being honest, or just you could. Okay. We were actually doing a game the other day in the wrestling group chat where it was like come up with your own GCW show name, and it was pretty fun.
All of my picks would be like emo songs from the mid 2000s because I really feel like that fits the GCW name vibe of overly long theme songs on there. And there probably was a song that, or not a song, a show title that we had to change the name of this or else our lawyers told us we'd be sued, which is a Fall Out Boy song. Because the original title was about MySpace, and I won't repeat what that is, but they had to change it. So MySpace sued them. So they just titled the song that. So hope you have fun there. Get to see Zack Sabre Jr. live, former IWGP champion, taking on Mance Warner, who's also in a TNA main event, I think, coming up soon in their next big show. So Mance doing some big things, you doing some big things, and we at Wrestle Update are doing some big things because we are talking about Elimination Chamber 2025. It came to us from the Rogers Center. It used to be called Sky Dome back in the old days. I remember, I used to play MLB The Show, and I would play that Blue Jays venue. Always one of the most home run friendly stadiums, Toronto. And they changed the name due to horrifying corporate conglomerations taking over all of our favorite stadiums and sports arenas. But 38,493 was the total announced. And 38,000 or so fans all started off the show booing the U.S. national anthem. I don't know if you saw this, which has been a real popular craze in Canadian sports lately, with everything going on and the political climate with the pointless trade war that the U.S. is embargoed in or with Canada. The fans have taken it out on the national anthem. I feel bad. Say what you want. This is not a political show, but we are a human show. This singer had nothing to do with any of this. I felt kind of bad for her.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to keep doing it. I feel
Yeah,
like.
yeah. If everyone's booing you,
Yeah.
through no fault of her own, she was a fine singer, like you said. But
It's just weird that they play the U.S. national anthem in international shows.
well, they did play "O Canada" as well.
Yeah, like that makes sense. You're in Canada, right?
Right.
And it's not like the WWE is like a U.S. sports team, so it's not like it's like,
That's true.
let's play the anthems of the teams or something, right?
Yeah,
it's
they're
just like a
worldwide
very
company.
yeah, it's just like a very WWE-ism style thing where it's like we always got to get our America shit in, but clearly it backfired here.
Yeah, it wasn't the best time for this. Well, at least it wasn't America the Beautiful. That would have gotten booed too on there. But hey, I am one of the rare people that is pro national anthem, not just the U.S. national anthem, but every national anthem, no matter what country it is. One of my favorite things in the old Dragon Gate title matches, the Dream Gate matches, was when they would play the national anthem before it, and if like Ricochet or Pac or somebody was going in there, they would play the U.S. anthem. It made it feel like a huge deal, you know. So I'm very pro because it just makes it feel more legit to me. But regardless, like I said, poor singer. I don't know who this lady was, but I'm sure she's a beautiful person inside and out. But she got booed heavily. Here, long story short. So they go from that, and they play the video package, and the first thing we see is Pat McAfee complaining about them booing the national anthem. He went on and on about this like multiple times throughout the show. It is really annoying, to be honest with you. Because he would just insert it into random times. He'd be like, Canada sucks, and all of this other stuff. Which Bret Hart could not have been happy about it if he was watching this, for sure. But we go in there, they play the video package. Thankfully, we recorded our last show before this happened, like an hour or two before it did, because we could have done a whole show on that SmackDown segment where The Rock said that he wanted Cody Rhodes' soul. Perhaps one of the worst promos in The Rock's career, I would say. It got a lot of people talking. I will say that, just not in a good way. Cody Rhodes looked at him like he was a freaking weirdo, which is, I mean, it's very realistic. I probably would as well if I were in his shoes. Everybody thought this was nuts, and it's just so, because we had talked about it, and we basically speculated on if Rock was going to ruin all of Triple H's WrestleMania plans to come in, and it appears, well, he probably hasn't ruined them. He's probably made it more spectacular than it would have been beforehand. But it's clear that all the reports were that Rock basically showed up one day in the middle of last week and was like, hey, I'm coming on SmackDown. I'm doing my thing. And everyone was like, oh, all right. like we're throwing out all these months-long plans we had. Like, do whatever you want, Rock. And we'll talk about where that led to on this show. I will say, I don't know where you come across on this, Nello, but at first I was a little annoyed that the Chamber was like, and not just the Chamber, but that a match was not the main event. I know that's kind of like an old school way of thinking, but I thought, oh man, a talking segment, like The Rock just shows up and gets the main event automatically. By the end, I got it. Like, I really did. I really understand why they did what they did. I will have to say that overall. But before this show, what did you think of this Rock and Cody stuff? Like, what was your gauge on it? Were you thinking, like, this is insane? Were you like me and laughed at it a lot? Because I thought it was really funny. Like, how the whole thing happened. Or were you just like, oh, man, this company's going in a tailspin heading into WrestleMania?
I had no idea what to make of it. It was all just so strange. Like I didn't watch it or anything. I pretty much took it all in through like the post wrestling John Pollock recaps. And he was not very big on it. So it was funny to like listen to that. But yeah,
I don't think anybody was big on it. I just thought everyone thought it was weird.
Yeah, like I was very confused by like what I was hearing, you know? None of it sounded like it was really making sense. And then when it came tonight, I was still just as confused. Yeah.
Well, that was the question. Me and Ken, my grandpa, were watching Raw this week, and this is my main point of all of this. Shout out to Ken, by the way. He had a short stay in the hospital, but is back home now.
Hell yeah.
Good stuff for that. We have the doctor's appointment tomorrow, so hopefully everything goes okay there. But he is back and doing a bit better. But we were talking about Raw, and I was like, what does that mean? He wants his soul. Like, what do you actually want with that? Because the cool thing about Rock segments now, it feels like every one of them is a shoot, but unwillingly. Like, he just doesn't know what he's doing, so he just says whatever comes to his mind. Just like his press conferences where he's like, the great thing about the Rock character is that I can have a match or I cannot have a match. And even with this amazing story I've crafted in my genius mind, we don't even have to have a match at WrestleMania because I'm the Rock and I have goosebumps on my arms. And it's like, oh, okay, Rock, like whatever you're talking about, it feels like he just rambles on, and I don't know. I don't know about these Rock segments anymore, man. It just feels like he's just going off the dome, and Cody's trying to keep up.
Yeah, they do not feel like super thought out, especially like, I mean, I think the one in the Elimination Chamber was obviously the best thing so far, but they're very scattershot. Like, and I think what's hard is like a lot of the times in pro wrestling, you know how to act and respond. And with The Rock, like, it's not like he's a tweener or anything like that. He's just fucking confusing and very like vague. And like talks in like very suggestive ways to where a lot of this stuff just doesn't wind up making sense.
And homoerotic ways at times as well, which we all appreciate on this show. The problem is he's like schizo. Like he'll be a babyface for one sentence and then the next one immediately turn on the crowd and then go back to being a babyface again. And it's like, what do you want to be, Rock? Like, do you want to be a heel or a babyface? Or like you said, he's not really a tweener. Like, he's clearly a heel now. But he's just done a very poor job of getting that across, I would say, so far. But more on that in the main event segment. The show started off, first of all, too, we have to say, these 4-match cards are getting a little silly, I would say. Like, and one of the matches was unsanctioned, so that doesn't even count technically. And secondly, the other one was meaningless. Like, there was nothing on the line or points.
So
really.
When I hit the men's chamber, I had completely forgotten about the women's tag match. And I was like, holy shit, this is a 3-match show. Like, this has to be the least amount of matches on a WWE pay-per-view ever. And I guess it was 4, and I think we've already had shows with 4. But yeah, it's getting pretty fucking, you said it already, but ridiculous. Like, 3.5 hours for 4 matches is just like, come on.
Well, you compare that to AEW show next week where there's going to be 10 in most of our singles matches. I think the one good thing about that, and I mean, obviously we'll see how it plays out. We may be up until 3 a.m. for all we know for Revolution, but on paper, some of those epic matches that they built up may not get enough time. Like, somebody's going to have to take the fall on that card, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be the main event. It's not going to be the women's title match with Tony and Mariah. So they can't all go 30 minutes. You know, like, something's gonna have to give. With these shows, at least you got enough time for the big matches. If anything, like you said, the tag match was totally superfluous. It was a waste of everyone's time, pretty much. But the show started off with the Women's Elimination Chamber. They've set up a big match on Raw this Monday where Rhea Ripley will take on Io Sky for the women's title. And whoever wins this will face the winner of that at WrestleMania. Pretty simple stuff here. You had Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Bayley, Liv Morgan, Naomi, and Roxanne Perez. Naomi and Liv Morgan started off, and suddenly Jade Cargill's music hit right away. And Liv Morgan, the storyline going into this was that they found some really weak evidence in court of that Liv had attacked Jade 5 months ago or whatever, where they showed Liv walking out of the arena when Jade was getting stretchered out. And they were like, oh, Liv was on the video. It had to be her. So Liv is freaking out in the ring. She's like, no, I swear I didn't do it. I promise, please. And Jade's like walking in. Jade has new gear too, like all black gear. She looked pretty badass, to be honest with you, like marching out. She hits the ring. And Liv is like, please don't do it. And she has this comedic cover up. She's like, no. And like waves her hands up in front of her face. And the announcers are screaming about, this is revenge. And then suddenly Jay turns and hits Naomi. And she beats the shit out of her here. Stomps the hell out of her, punches her. Bianca's stuck in her pod. So she's like smacking the pod saying, no, why are you doing this? Please let me out. Jade's beating the hell out of her. She smashes the chamber door into her head, knocks her out cold, and they stretch Naomi out. And I have to say, I was expecting somebody to run in here to replace her. We've seen that before in Elimination Chambers where somebody gets attacked before the match. It's the most famous one was when Edge beat the hell out of Kofi Kingston and climbed into his chamber pod and ended up winning the match. So I thought somebody might replace her. What do you think of this angle here with Jade finally coming back and seeing the next step in all of this?
So I had to work yesterday while watching it. And like sometimes I miss literally like 5 seconds, right? But that 5 seconds is incredibly instrumental. So I thought Jade Cargill was in the match when she came in. And so when she started fighting Naomi and all of that, I was like, are they doing this as like a triple threat start now? Then everything clicked. I was like, okay, this is actually a really sick swerve. This has definitely gotten me invested in the storyline. I think if she just attacked Liv, I'm like, okay, Liv hurt her. Jade's coming back for revenge. That's it. But this is like a really interesting whodunit now. I thought Jade had some really good looking offense here as well.
Yeah.
Like some of her hardest hitting striking. I was like, have you been hanging out with Brian again? Hopefully. But yeah, Bianca's reactions were really great. I thought it was just funny how like by the end she was like so happy from winning, which of course you would be, but it was very like you were just like emotionally distraught and like your best friends were like beating the hell out of each other, and now you're just like, we're going to WrestleMania. So that like I almost thought that after Bianca won, she should have like ran to the back instead of celebrating to really continue the story. So that's my only complaint with it. But yeah, this was a really cool way to open up the chamber match. I mean, usually, especially now that we have 2 a year, they always try to do this like spot, right, where the person is like injured on the ramp going up, or they get thrown through the door or some shit like that, to where it's like someone always gets eliminated, not by pinfall or submission. And this was a good way to get it going.
Yeah, I totally agree about Jade. Her offense looked great here. Somebody just told her, they were like, look, Jade, forget that weak shit you usually throw. I need you to beat the hell out of her. There. And Naomi
that was a Travis Scott level of stiff shooting.
Yeah, the stiffest worker on the show who was in the main event segment for sure, but she was a close second. Naomi probably told her, like, just lay it in. Like, I need you to make this injury angle look legit. And she succeeded. It was a great start, a very hot opening. I think a lot of people kind of figured that it was too obvious that it would be Liv that attacked her. So I think everybody kind of figured Naomi would turn. There's a lot of speculation that actually Bianca framed Naomi, and Bianca actually did it. The problem is that would be stupid, considering Bianca was in the ring when they showed her when they showed Jade laid out. So they'll have to retcon that if they go that route. But I think Naomi's the logical person. She's always popular with the fans. Don't get me wrong. Very good babyface energy to her. But I feel like she was always going to be kind of slotted as a like 1B instead of a 1A or even a 1. So I think the heel turn can freshen her up a bit if they go that route. I think it's good booking overall. I don't know if it was worth 6 months of nothing, like this storyline going nowhere, but I do think that they've got a solid payoff, and they give Jade a WrestleMania match, and Naomi as well. So, she'll be rewarded for all this. Um, Liv is in the ring laughing. She mocks Bianca in the chamber. Bianca, like you said, is very distraught. She's like on her knees crying. They cut to the next entrant, and Bianca happens to be number 3. She starts off real frazzled and all that, but then she takes out Liv. She goes after her. Liv and her have a competitive back and forth. And after that, the first thing she does is, I like this part because the first thing she did when she got in the ring was not go after Liv. It was to run to the door to check on Naomi, who was being stretchered out. And Naomi, reached for her a little bit. And I also this is one of the few nice things I'll say about the otherwise putrid commentary on this show.
Dude, I'm so sorry. I'm so happy you mentioned that because we'll talk about it a lot during Owen's Zayn, I'm sure. But I thought the commentary on this show was the worst character. Just across the board, they were so fucking bad, and they really overburdened the matches.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I'm always never a fan. I like Wade well enough. The other two ruin shows much more often than they don't. Then they're even passable. They usually actively make shows worse. And I think this might have been the worst performance for all 3 of them that I've seen. Maybe not Cole, because he has some stinkers going way back. But at least in recent years, this was the worst I've heard them. And I thought they actively took away from this show. Yes. Even to the main event angle, as great as it may have been. But, yeah, I mean, the commentary was straight up donkey booty cheeks on this show. It sucked. But I will say a nice thing about them. They didn't say – I would have been so annoyed if after Jade beat the shit out of Naomi, they were like, why did she do it? Why would she go after Naomi? This is crazy. Instead, they said, well, we could probably guess that Naomi had something to do with her attack. They said that right away. They didn't try and play stupid about it like they usually do in this kind of angle. They said, no, it's obvious why she attacked her. Clearly, Naomi must have had something to do with the attack. And Jade knows. So I'm happy they didn't play a guessing game. Why did she do it? Why would she attack Naomi? No, we know why she attacked her. They've been playing this stupid-ass storyline out for 6 months. So at least I will give them that they at least did not play dumb about it. I appreciated that segment. I think 100% if this was Vince's WWE, they would have played stupid about it and be like, I just don't understand why she attacked her. But anyway, Liv takes the advantage. They go back and forth. Roxanne Perez is coming in at number 4. I think much like the NXT 4-way that we watched, I think Roxy was the best worker in this match of everyone. I think she really held this together the best she could. She comes in hot. She goes after Bianca right away, shoves her to the chamber wall. Everybody's brawling for everybody. They all clothesline each other, so they're all down. Bayley comes in at number 5, goes right after Roxy, which plays into their feud that they've been having the whole time. She bashes her head into the pod over and over. She pulls her into the pod and does it over and over. She comes back into the ring. They try to do this big stare down between Bianca and Bayley, and it wasn't that big of a pop, to be honest. Roxy goes up though, and she goes after Bayley again. Gets a frog splash for a 2 count. Finally, they all go down. Liv is in the ring, and Alexa comes out as the last person in. By the way, Alexa's entrance, she had a jacket on that said Fiend for Eternity on there, so big shout out to Bray Wyatt with that. Bliss looks really pissed off at Liv for some reason here, so they've had no real feud going into this. And then she gets pissed at Roxy and beats the hell out of her, too. She had those hammer fist strikes, which was very good. They go in. Roxy throws her into the chamber. And they're all basically coming in down. Roxy hits a satellite into the crossface, shades of Daisuke Sasaki here, with this. And they're going in. Bailey has a very good escape where she like rolls out of the ring, and they say right away too. They're like, the rope breaks don't matter. There's no DQs in the chamber. So she keeps rolling to the chamber cage, and like presses her face against the chain to break her fingers off, which I thought was a very creative and good way to break up this crossface. They're going in. Bailey hits a rose plant to the outside, and Roxy does that like crazy screeching, and she yells at Bailey, "You're like, you were never my role model." But she gets attacked to stop that, and suddenly Liv hits the Oblivion to knock out Bailey. So Bailey's eliminated with Oblivion. I personally would have preferred Roxy to eliminate her. Just for the storyline purposes. Liv sees Bianca, and Liv runs away, climbs to the top of the pod. Bianca follows her and hits this astonishing hair whip that was so loud they replayed it like 10 times. It cut Liv. Liv took some punishment in this match, man. She had a cut on her back. She had a scar on her side. She had a bruise on her arm. That whip was devastating. But Belair ends up diving onto the other three on the outside. They all fight, and they go into the ring. There's a big Tower of Doom spot. They all three hit finishers on Roxy, and it leads to Alexa eliminating her with a Twisted Bliss. So they're down to 3. They go back and forth. Bliss gives Bianca the deadfall for a near fall, but then she doesn't get a pin because Liv sneaks up on her, does a jackknife cover, and grabs Bianca's hair to latch onto the pin, which is kind of funny. So it comes down to Liv and Bianca. They go back and forth. They each get good offense, but in the end, Bianca gets the kiss of death for the win at 29 minutes and 13 seconds here. 15 seconds, excuse me. 7.59 rating on Cage Match. What'd you think of this?
I thought this was good. Definitely like 3.5, 3 3/4.
Yeah.
I thought everyone really was, with these matches, it's very much about hitting your spots at the right time in a fluid way to where it doesn't look staged.
True.
And they had a really good fluidity throughout. I liked the storylines that they set up. I totally agree about Roxanne should have pinned Bailey. Also, dude, it might just be because I've been watching a lot of Pro Wrestling Evolution and BJW, but does Roxanne not remind you of Fuminori Abe? Just like personality-wise, like always fighting these veterans, always pissed off, always getting in like the extra shot when they can.
She's like a more serious Abe, because Abe drifts into comedy sometimes. I haven't seen Roxy's comedic chops yet. We need to see that to see if she could truly be the Texas Abe.
What was I gonna say? But yeah, no, I like this overall. Like it had a fiery start from the Jade angle, all the way up until the finish. I'm happy that Bianca won. More than anything, I think that Rhea just needs a good title defense or just a challenger versus like a good story or something. Like it's just her whole title runs, both of them so far. I can't tell you any matches that she's actually had besides the Charlotte one and the Liv one. And, they need to get her in the ring with people. I personally think Bianca should just win.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think Rhea's someone that really is good with the belt. They just don't have anything for her to do ever with it.
I know that's a hot take to some people, but I actually totally agree. Like I think it's
like Undertaker, like when you give Undertaker the belt, it kind of just complicates the character in a way of like the character can be so much stronger and they simply do not need the belt. But Bianca versus Rhea should be a really good powerhouse fight. If I'm not mistaken, they haven't really fought much, right? Since NXT.
No, that'd be a fresh matchup. But don't forget, Io could be the champion too, right?
I would also be very happy for that.
I mean, the odds of her beating Rhea are not strong, I would say. Bianca and Io have much more history than Bianca and Ripley. to be honest, because like you said, like they did stuff in NXT, but besides that, there really hasn't been any of that on the main roster. To be honest with you, so like that's a fresh matchup and a worthy WrestleMania match. If it's Ripley versus Bianca. I do agree with you that if it was me, I would just have Bianca win. Like I totally agree that everything you said about Ripley and her character and her as a champion, it's like she constantly has these bad reigns, and it's nothing against her talent level, which we both like. I mean, again, charisma's great, the look is fantastic, her wrestling is very good as a power worker, but the character, like you said, the belt adds complications to the character. She's at her best when she's wanting to rip somebody's head off, not trying to be an honorable champion. That's why I think so much of that with the Dominic stuff got so over with the fans, because they wanted to see her murder Liv Morgan at the end of the day. And I don't think you're going to have that level of heat with either Io or Bianca. As a match, I agree with you as well. I would say about 3.5 stars. Maybe we're a little lower on it than the inmates, but we're more or less on the same page. It was a good match, probably not great, I would say. But I personally disagree with the inmates. I mean, I thought this was of the two chambers, I think as a full match, I think this was more complete than the men's chamber.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Men's chamber was a lot more of like split up moments.
Yeah. And I thought this started off hot with the Jade intro. You got big memorable moments like the hair whip. I thought the right person won as well. And I thought this, I got to say, I'm not normally a big fan of hers as an in-ring person, but I thought this was the best we've seen Liv in ring.
Yes.
Through this match. I think she worked really well with Roxy. I thought her and Bianca showed great chemistry. Because remember, her matches with Ripley were no great shakes for the most part, or really any of her matches were not great shakes. She's at her best as a really annoying character, not like heel character, not as a wrestler. Remember the first time they tried to make her champion, they had her face Ronda? I mean, that sucked. Like that whole thing.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Liv as a babyface champion was not doing it. I think here, for whatever reason, this just clicked. Like this really flowed. Compared to that NXT match we saw, and there was no chamber in that, of course. But I thought this flowed a lot better than that one did, which had a noticeably clunky moments from Julianne Bailey. Here, Bailey was kind of. It felt like they kept her out of the way for the most part for all of this, because she was in this thing 20 minutes. I can barely remember anything Bailey did outside of that opening flurry against Roxy. And I thought it was good design. But yeah, good match. Worth a watch. Good winner. At the end, Bianca points to the sign. Fireworks shoot off everywhere. I think I would agree with what you said earlier, too, about Bianca. I would have just had her show a little bit more, be conflicted about it, because this is a great moment. There's no doubt about that. But you also had a personal heartache minutes before the show as well, or minutes before the match started. So I would have had, because I mean, I played sports before, and I remember there was one time I won, or not, the team I was on, I played basketball for the Treasure Bears, and we won a game at the end of the season to clinch our playoff spot, pretty much, in the state tournament. And it was a we never get to that, so it was like a huge deal. And I played a great game in it, not to brag or anything, I played a really good game. I had a double with points and assists and everything, but it was really good. A great win. Everybody was dapping me up, showing me love and all that. But before that game, and it wasn't even this was minutes before in this case, but a couple of days before, I had a breakup with my girlfriend. So I was really conflicted. Yes, this was super cool, But at the time, teenage high school Dylan was like, damn, man, my life feels like it's over, but also I won this huge game. And I was really conflicted about it. But outwardly, I was happy. Like, like I might not have been as enthusiastic as I would have been otherwise if she was there with me celebrating. I would have gone freaking batshit crazy. But as it was, I was still happy and everyone loved it and all that stuff. So I mostly bought Bianca being happy after the win because at the end of the day, she's going to WrestleMania. Whatever's going on with Jade and Naomi is bad. But in the moment, I bought it. I will say I would have liked her to be a little bit more conflicted, at least. But she walked up the ramp. And Rhea came out, and Bianca awkwardly turned to her and was like, "Oh, you're here." Ripley held up the title. Then Io came walking out of the back and looked at both of them. I really wanted her to do her "I'm watching you" eye point taunt, but she didn't do that. Instead, she just smiled. She was kind of geeking out, like being a part of this moment, I think. She posted afterwards how much fun she had at the show. Her and Sammy took a pic. And so she was pretty happy. And yeah, setup, we'll see. The only thing I could say is I could see something happening on Raw where somebody interferes in that title match between Ripley and Io. Whether it's Liv, whether it's maybe Naomi and Jade do something. Naomi comes out of jealousy of getting eliminated. You could set something up. I don't really want them to set up a multi-person match. I think it's just much more straightforward with Bianca and Ripley and Jade and Naomi. But I have heard rumors that people were advocating for Io to get a big WrestleMania match, like writers and stuff in the writers' room. She was like the number 2 person, and certain people really wanted her to get that WrestleMania title shot. So they could bridge this off into a multi-person match as well at WrestleMania if they wanted to, and just put them all in together. If they were to do that, I could honestly see that match going to a no contest, because just beating Io means Io is not going to WrestleMania. Pretty much, like it's over.
Yep.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So they play a video recapping Trish coming back with Tiffany. Even though last we saw Trish had like made fun of Tiffany, at Money in the Bank last year, it was like, no, you're not on my level. But now they're friends because Tiffany's a babyface now. I was really surprised because Tiffany got a better reaction than Trish did coming out here in her hometown for her 25th anniversary match. They both come out with Maple Leafs colors here, the white and the blue. Trish has a bunch of her old logos from her career on her jacket. It was pretty cool, to be honest. They come in. Candice and Nia were like, they could have been anybody. Like they just needed heel bodies. Nia has a connection with Tiffany. Candice is a lost post. This match meant nothing overall. Well, it was nice to see Trish again. She had a really cool bulldog from the top rope. That was pretty nice, but 5.25, that seems about fair. I thought this was a completely average match in every single way. Like, 5 out of 10 level, 2.5 star level.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, by the time the men's main event had come around, I had literally forgotten about this match. If that's, kind of any indication of its lasting effect. I don't watch weekly. If I'm not mistaken, Charlotte is facing Tiffany at WrestleMania.
Yeah, she challenged her for the Rumble title win.
So this doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, yeah, it's like a way to keep them apart until Mania, but why wouldn't you have done Charlotte and Tiffany, or like Nia and Charlotte versus Tiffany and Trish? Like, I guess just the whole not having Charlotte in this just is you're building towards WrestleMania. I mean, they need to build Tiffany as a babyface as well, but I feel like you still could have done that while having Charlotte involved in some way. And if she was, my mistake, but it felt like one
she wasn't
episodes
involved in this at all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those episodes of Buffy where it's like it's just the monster of the week and has absolutely nothing to do with like the plot, right? That's actually going through the season.
I think we have to say first and foremost, rest in peace, Dawn Summers, Michelle Trachtenberg.
Michelle Trachtenberg, yeah.
Yeah. Huge fan of hers. I'm very sad what happened with her liver and all of that. I couldn't believe how young she was, dude. Like, she wasn't even 40 yet. And when I was like a kid, I mean, I was still like a baby when that show was on the air. But she was like, to me, she felt like an adult. And I was like, man, I can't believe she's so young. And it's just so sad. But wonderful talent. Both on Buffy and Gossip Girls, too. I saw her on as well. Gossip Girl. But Tiffany, I think the thing is, her promos and her character and everything about her is really heelish.
Yep.
But the fans love her anyway. So it kind of works. Like I said, she got a huge reaction. Remember last year in Elimination Chamber in Australia? She got the biggest reaction of any of the women in the chamber. So that's working. Charlotte, I think, is just so cold as a character. There's no interest in her versus anybody. And I think, unfortunately, Tiffany is the one that had to bite the bullet. I think what you said makes so much sense. They should have had Charlotte pay off, because that's her whole gimmick. She came in on a yacht and all of that. She should buy Nia and Candice as like her goons for this feud. You could have had Charlotte and Nia. Candice would interfere in the match, and the end result of it would be Candice and Nia holding back Tiffany while Charlotte destroys Trish in her hometown. I think that's how I would have had this go. And you could put heat on Charlotte, actually build up some personal stakes to the match. And maybe you could even have a backstage segment of Zoe Stark laughing about it, since they never had any interactions, despite that whole year run Zoe and Trish had together. But yeah, match was meaningless. It was an average match as it was. It was good to see Trish. She still looks great. Like I said, I love the Bulldog off the top. She's tried to add some moves over the years. I think she's adjusted very well to the in-ring standard growing from when she was in her prime. I like that they showed her last match against Lita, like in her first retirement, where she won with the sharpshooter there. So that was cool. So they go on and on about they play this hype video for The Rock where he's like talking about how great he is, pretty much. And they're like, he has a billion followers on Instagram. He's done more than anyone ever has, blah, blah, blah. So then that leads to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn having a video. I thought Sami Zayn's promo on Monday was phenomenal, where they talked about, and I also loved it because they did kind of like KO's version was good, where he actually showed up at his house and they showed the video of it and everything. But that was such a cheesy and overdramatic angle that, I'm never really into that, like going to somebody's house stuff. Sammy just talked about how he went to his house, and KO's grandma talked to him, and they had a great conversation, and he felt like a huge asshole. Like, he was like, what have I done? Like, why am I here? Why am I fighting Kevin? This makes no sense. Like, I've become this horrible person. But then he remembered that KO tried to threaten his livelihood, take money off his wallet or whatever, nearly broke his neck. And he had a very normal, like, sportsman-like interview where he said, I know this match is unsanctioned. I know my neck's not 100%. I'm not going to lie about that. But whatever happens, I'm going to hurt you in that match. So be ready, because I'm coming. And I thought it was an excellent promo by Sammy to build up. So they start off with a commentary talking about they've had a million matches against each other before. And that's another thing that's impressive about these two in this feud. They're really having to fight really hard to make this match mean something because they fought so many times before. And that's a big point in a lot of their promos is like, why is this time different than the other times? Why is this more brutal than the other times we fought? And they try to bring up the family stuff as a good reason for it. And I like that. But the commentary at the start was like, this is more violent than ever. They had matches as Kevin Steen and El Generico before together. So what did you think about that callback?
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate it when they bring up the past and stuff like that. You know, it's WWE is really weird now, again, because at first they never acknowledged anything outside, and then they started acknowledging stuff outside, but then they started acknowledging everything except like AEW.
Yeah.
So again, it's weird because like some things I noticed on this, like they mentioned that Chris Jericho invented the Elimination Chamber, right?
They did say that, yeah.
So
I thought it was Bischoff, according to his podcast, that he said.
Yeah, like you get mentions of AEW superstars that were former WWE guys, and I think that is really cool because it's history, right? But then you have CM Punk come out and they keep talking about how he hasn't had a world title match in 12 years, even though he was a two-time AEW world champion, right? And, you know, maybe with someone like Punk, he's like, I don't want them to mention my fucking time in AEW. Also, I did want to shout him out for wearing that Chicago Teachers Union shirt.
That was
really cool.
Yeah,
That's
we
awesome.
got to give him props for that. We're both CM Punk haters, and I'm like the original CM Punk hater. But I do have to give him props for that. That was good.
Yeah. No, he stands up for some good causes, and that's awesome to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird how it's like, okay, so we acknowledge like 90% of wrestling history and everything that goes on right now, except for this one. So again, just a little bit weird to me, but because it was like they mentioned El Generico and Kevin Steen's matches, but they didn't explicitly name Ring of Honor, which is what I thought was interesting. Because I noticed too, it's like Ring of Honor, they'll like mention characters and stuff, but they don't really ever say the name Ring of Honor anymore. And I was like, that's interesting because before Tony bought it, they would show like stuff from Ring of Honor and things like on NXT and shit like that. Yeah. So, you know, it goes to show that they're I don't know, whatever. I could talk about it all day, but yeah, it's just like those weird little gaps, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree with all of that. And even they tried to bring up his time in AEW with Punk, I think the most notorious one. And it's always like, you went to the competition. Like that's all they ever say. Like they never say AEW, they just say the competition. That's AEW's official name in WWE history. Except for that time that Sammy went on, he shot on the crowd and said that I want you to ask about AEW during that horrible question.
When he was the like
the worst
Che Guevara.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, he did. That was the only time we've heard of AEW on WWE. And that did get a big reaction, to be fair. But yeah. The first and foremost, that fight without honor they brought up was way better than this match. You should watch that instead of this. That said, I really blame the presentation and the commentary for this more than anything.
So this, sorry to interrupt, but this match was 27 minutes and 35 seconds. Yeah. 5 minutes into the match, the commentary starts saying, "Someone please stop this damn thing. Kevin, he has a family." And dude, for the next 22 minutes and 35 seconds, the commentary, 95% of the work they did was just asking for the match to be stopped, whether it was yelling at officials, yelling at the guys in the match, just yelling at God himself or whatever to end this match. And it was the most annoying fucking thing because all they did is build up how this is unsanctioned, how what you're about to see is going to disturb you. And the entire time they spent telling you, end this now. They had security come in. They had more referees come in telling Kevin, just end the match. This felt so much like, to me, this match, if you took out the commentary and the refs and the security guard trying to stop Kevin Owens, this is like a 4 1/4 match. I thought that they brought the brutality. They had some really great spots. You know, I think that it was very light on the blood, which is to say, if I'm not mistaken, there wasn't any.
There wasn't any, yeah.
Unsanctioned match, especially after taking a face dive into a fucking barbed wire chair. But alas, this was a really good match that was like, I thought, given the presentation of Rollins and Fiend in Hell in a Cell, where it's like, you're telling me that this is supposed to be the most brutal display of power and everything, but then you're going to like constantly give it these constraints of like, no, this is too far, and no, how could you do this, and no, just end it now. And it was like, you're trying to give me something and then telling me nonstop that it's just so fucking like annoying. It was really, really annoying. And they did the same exact bit, is the exact bit in the Cody, Rock, and Cena main event segment.
Yeah.
Stop it, please stop. And it's just like, dude, shut the fuck up. Oh, imagine if hockey commentators were like that when people got in fights.
Please stop this. Please stop. That's how I felt the other day when they traded Nyquist. Nashville Preds traded Nyquist. I wanted to scream like these commentators. But yeah, like, oh God, how could they do this? But yeah, in reality, my main problem with this is the violence felt so much more visceral in the main event segment than this one did, and maybe the blood had a lot to do with that. But in terms of action, I really just thought this was good. Like, I'm not going to say this was bad at all.
No.
But like, it was good. And I think it could have been great without the commentary, first of all. I 100% agree with that. But I just thought it was a little bloated in a WWE way overall. I think that they could have really got to the finish sooner once we got to the barbed wire. That was the big spot of this match, was the barbed wire chair. They should have built to one major spot. The Blue Thunder Bomb through the setup barbed wire chair looked awesome. Like, that was great. You could have done that and then got to the finish going on there. I like the finish with the apron bomb because that's so like synonymous with their rivalry, especially in WWE canon.
Yeah, it was the first ever NXT interaction.
Yeah, exactly. That was their first ever turn in WWE, was when he apron bombed him. So for that to be the finish was great. I wish they got to it because they did this long drawn out segment with the chair wrapped around his neck that I thought wasted too much time. They should have done that once and then hit the apron bomb for the finish as the exclamation point. Instead, they wasted like 5 minutes with the chair stuff, then hit the apron bomb twice to win. And I just thought it was a little much. And like you said, with the agents running out, that stuff sucked.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, this is sort of like, I totally agree that it was too long. I think that it was a great match on paper that was really let down by the presentation.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's more appropriate to compare to something like the exploding barbed wire match in like an AEW, where like they wrestled the hell out of the match, but it's like it just did not come through the way that you would wanted it to. What I was interested in is how much are they going to push this WWE envelope that we're familiar with? I felt that they did not.
I did.
Letdown. I was constantly waiting for the package pile driver. I thought that's going to be the spot that.
Yeah, that's what this whole feud has been about, is the pile driver stuff.
Yep, and nothing. So that was a massive letdown as well. But I don't know, man. This went too long as well, and I feel like that is sort of.
But it had to, because there was only 4 matches on this card.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like they had to fill the time, which I think that if they had another match on this show, like if they had Io and fucking Rhea, why not? Like, I get you need something from Monday, but God, like, are they allergic? How did Tiffany and Trish, like, yes, it's in Toronto, but how did they get the fucking spot over an actual women's title match? It's just crazy. Like, it goes to show that like being on a PLE doesn't matter anymore, really, because it's like no matter what these shows they're doing, or like with the exception of like a SmackDown, I feel like are like PLEs, especially on Raw. Right. The streaming setup now, but yeah, man, like just way too long. I agree with like that whole ending bit that they could have tightened it so much and made it way more effective. Yeah, I guess I'd probably land like, again, 3.5, 3 3/4 on this.
It's got a 9.09 rating on CageMatch. So
insane, dude.
Maybe this commentary didn't bother everyone as much as it did us, but I don't know how. What about the part when he smashed him in the head with a trash can? Then McAfee was like, he hit him with Dominic Mysterio. And Wade was like, completely unnecessary, but very funny. But for a match this serious, we don't need to be making jokes. That's a big problem with McAfee in general. Is like
Doesn't know how to
nothing
read
ever,
the fucking room.
nothing ever feels serious with him, like or worthwhile. Like he can't, he doesn't
Unless
know.
you boo the national anthem.
Oh, and even then, he was like frat boy mad, not like serious like you've heard. Like Sammy on Raw was like serious mad. McAfee was just annoying, pretty much. Like there was no weight to anything that he ever does. McAfee just sucks. Like he's an awful commentator. I don't know why. I get it. I get that he's a name. I do know why they bring him in.
Also, the way that they build him up is like, because they did that whole bit too, where they showed the clip. It probably happened before this, or maybe it was after, but the new Stephanie McMahon show.
Oh yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we're interviewing WWE's biggest superstars, The Undertaker, and then they were like, and Pat McAfee. And I really don't get why they push Pat like he's one of these, like, yes, he's a huge name, but like this dude is not a WWE superstar. Like, and this is like a really personal thing in terms of like, I look at the dudes who actually put their bodies on their line. You know, like you just saw like the women and the guys go out and like do some really crazy shit in these Elimination Chamber matches. And then you have someone like Pat McAfee who's sitting down and just like such a fucking terrible commentator. And they're like, oh, you're one of the biggest successes in WWE history. And it's just like so brain dead. I don't know. I'm not a McAfee guy. He was also part of that whole thing with Logan Paul where they were very transphobic towards the boxer during the Olympics, and neither made
was such a load of horseshit.
Neither made any retraction or correction or apologized, which goes to show you the kind of people that they are deep down. So yeah, miss me with that shit, man.
I think to be fair, I think Logan actually said something to the effect of, well, he was like, I may have been wrong about that one, but it's bad for and all that. He was like, I may have been misled. I think he said something like, I got bad information or something like that. It wasn't an apology. He just said, okay, maybe I was wrong on that one, but my point still stands. Couple of assholes, like dumb ass motherfuckers. But anyway. So more stalling as the security comes out. They're all checking on. Oh, this is another annoying thing. After the match, Cole was all like, I hope you're happy, Kevin. I hope you're happy. And all this. It was so lame and whiny. He should have just shut the hell up for a second on that. But yeah, they're all working on him. He walks up the ramp very distraught and all that. And suddenly he wastes 5 minutes and then rushes back to the ring to go after Sammy again. And he's about to end him permanently. And then suddenly Randy Orton's music hit and he came out, which I predicted would happen. I figured that was going to happen. Orton comes out and he's looking pissed. He's like, you want to break my neck? The crowd's going crazy for this. This is one of the loudest pops of the whole show. Was when he came out.
Yep. They sang along.
Yep, they sang along to Voices. Orton hits the RKO right away. He grabs a chair like he's about to do something crazy. But then this is another thing. I really thought this sucked. So he tosses the chair outside and he like taps his knee and backs up in the corner. So he's about to load up the punt kick, which has put people out years and years ago. He hasn't done it in forever. But he's about to hit the punt, and he's running to hit it across the ring when suddenly it just so happened that like 20 security guards swarmed him before he could hit the punt.
Dude, and this was after the security guards, and I think commentary was even like, oh, now they're going to do their job. But again, just one of those like, what the fuck? This doesn't – why are they now like protecting like I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
You could make the argument that Owens was technically in a match with Zayn, but then the match ended, and then but it's just like I don't want to have to jump through all these hoops when I'm watching my graps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, to make your storylines to fill in your plot holes, like here, like that's never good entertainment. When you have to write your own storyline pretty much to make it make sense. Like no. Okay, solutions-oriented Dylan in play here. Here's how I would have had this come on. basically the start is fine. Orton rushes the ring, hits an RKO immediately on KO. Then security comes in to stop Orton right away. Maybe you can even do something where they're about to stop Orton from getting to the ring, and Orton's like, he plays it cool. He's like, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I just want to talk. Some bullshit like that, since you need to waste more time. So he hits the RKO right away. Security rushes him. He RKOs the security, which he did after all this anyway. But instead, you do it at the start. He RKOs everybody and tosses Pierce or whoever over the top rope. He then sets up to do the punt kick, and then they stop him right away. Like they're constantly on the attack to stop him, instead of waiting for him to about to hit the punt kick and then magically 20 guys swarm the ring. Have it set up to where they were always trying to stop him. He just hit the RKO on everybody, incapacitated them to set it up. I think that would have came across much more natural than how they did it, because it was so cheesy. And then KO, who was like not moving, as soon as they rushed the ring with Orton, he immediately flees the ring and goes up the ramp too. I mean, the crowd loved this. The stuff we're saying probably doesn't matter to a lot of fans. Like they were just happy to see Orton back.
No, and like, dude, these when you're at a live event too, so much of this shit matters less. Like, I'm going to GCW later today. Like, you know, I don't think that the Kogar brothers versus Sam Stackhouse and Fuego del Sol is going to be a remarkable match, but I know I'm going to have a shitload of fun during it. So, I don't know. Like, it's always great when it works for the live crowd, but again, like, I think when you're home, it's like you really have like another level of kind of just like processing, right? You don't have that live energy, so it's like you really take it in more in a way.
I also think they could have had a more dramatic exit for Sammy, because they wanted this to be this ultra violent match, and his career could possibly be over, but they kind of just moved on once Orton came out. According to that, they just left him at the side of the ring, I guess. Like all the security and medical people and stuff. But yeah, Orton versus Owens at Mania. I think a lot of people had that in mind. I would have rather it have been Owens versus Zayn at Mania. And I guess Zayn's going to be stuck with Cross of all people.
I mean, I could see Zayn maybe taking some time off, because
this was a pretty definitive ending.
Yeah, and like, I mean, he definitely feels like he got an injury angle, and I can't think of the last time Sammy actually got time off.
Yeah.
So,
listen, if it's either taking time off or wrestling Cross, what do?
Take the time off.
That match will not make a single iota of difference in Sammy's career in either way. You know. So maybe you're right on that. So they recap the the men's chamber. Everybody's yelling into the camera. Logan Paul makes this ridiculous face at the end of his because they're all shooting like video promos, like, you know, like social media videos, vertically shot, by the way, not even professionally shot, but it's all like, Drew's like, they better be ready because I need my title. Damien's like, it'll be the return of El Campeon. And Logan Paul's like, I'll do it because I'm the face of the WWE forever. And he makes this insane demonic face in the camera to close it out. So they all come out for the Elimination Chamber, and they've announced right away, because we know it'll be Jey Uso versus Gunther, this match will determine who faces Cody. So you've got John Cena, CM Punk, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, and Seth Rollins. It starts off with Drew and Seth. They've had a brief rivalry. One thing I like about this is how everybody has been at least loosely connected to this. Like, outside of Cena, who's just been an outside guy, they've set up feuds between everybody. And with Punk, you have feuds against everybody. like everybody hates Punk, as they should. Did you see that photo that was shared around? I mean, Punk, man, he's a goofy guy. Like the things he does are just so dumb sometimes. How he set this up. They showed him like sneaking behind the curtain when Roxanne was cutting a promo on SmackDown, and he was like making this weird face and doing like the Rascals taunt at her or something. And I was like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, Punk, you're a freaking weirdo. But not in a pervy way. I know some people tried to make that connection. It was playful, obviously, but still, it was dumb. Like overall, Punk hates everybody. Everybody hates Punk. Drew and Damian have heat because of the Rumble. Logan has history with Punk and Seth. Logan and Punk had a big promo on Raw this week. Seth hates Punk. Seth and Drew have a bit of history. Cena has history with almost all of these guys. So it makes perfect sense. Like this was a really well done chamber. Much like the Miz Royal Rumble, I think they built it up really well. I have to say, I thought... Again, there's way too much praising of this man on this show that I'm comfortable with. But I thought the match really reached its peak when Punk and Cena were against each other. And
no, totally agree.
And everything else felt really like it was fine. Like it was okay. Like, you know, I thought the segment with Drew and Seth was good enough. Damian came in and it was fine. I kind of like their three-way segment because the whole match before Cena came in or Logan Paul came in was like Priest would grab Seth, hit the Razor's Edge, and throw him into Drew, or Drew would hit a slam on Seth and throw him into Priest. So I like that they were just like throwing Seth back and forth and beating each other up with him. They come in. Logan Paul's at number 4. He does some high-flying stuff, does the springboard into the crossbody. He got notable boos as well. He was one of the first people to get real heat.
He walked out with the American flag as well. So he definitely knew what he was. I thought that I could totally see him after the national anthem getting booed, being like going up to a producer and being like, hey, how soon can you get me a fucking flag on a pole?
Oh, absolutely. Like 100%. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, no doubt about it. And I love it too because during his entrance they were like going on and on about him and like they're like the flag, and that let Pat McAfee go off and talk about the flag and the anthem and all that stuff again on there. I do like that this proves, and we need to respect that Puerto Ricans are also Americans though. Like WWE has said that this is their viewpoint publicly, so I do appreciate that as well. Respect Los Boricuas out there. So Logan Paul, he's being an asshole, as he always is. Priest, he does the Undertaker like old school, but then turns it into a Hurricane Rana on Drew on the outside. It looks pretty impressive for a guy his size. I think we have to be honest. Even though he was the coldest guy going into the match, he got like no reaction on his entrance. But that spot was good. He wrestled good in the match. It's just there wasn't any pop to it.
It's really crazy that Punishment Martinez has gotten as high as he has in WWE, because he was always a dude when I used to watch old school ROH. Like he was in that TV title class of like Silas Young and fucking like Tomohiro Ishii, like during that kind of mid 2010s era. And he was always, even on Ring of Honor, he was an older guy. And so it's always really amazed me how high he's risen in WWE, especially coming in as an older guy, man. I love Damian Priest. Yeah,
he's really good. Like I think he's a little underrated, to be honest. You know,
he had an unfortunate sort of series of like those little fucking things that would happen in his world title matches, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, an injury here, a little fuck up there, something like that. But I think overall he's a really solid talent that you can put in a really good utility positions that you can rely on.
That's exactly right. Like, I think he's totally fine in this chamber match. His story is really cool too. Like that documentary they aired on him when he was the world champion. Like he had a great story. Like coming from the streets legit into this point. And how hard he worked to get where he is. Because like you said, Punishment Martinez, like, he was... I've kind of said it about him and WWE, but even on the lower level, I always felt about him, like, Punishment, he's good, but not great. Like, that's kind of how I always felt about him in Ring of Honor. Like, I had no problem with his TV title run or anything like that. He had some good matches with Goto and Hangman Page. Like, that's a deep cut there. Like, they wrestled in Ring of Honor. But I like his style. He's got like versatile stuff with the power. He mixes in some kicks and stuff like that. He wants to do some high flying. And the effort's always there with him. He hits hard. Like, his shots always look good. Like, he never throws weak strikes that much, with his punches and things like that. So I like Damian Priest for sure. But he's still doing his thing in there. Cena goes off like a house of fire on everybody. And that leads to Drew firing up, hitting the Claymore on Priest, and Logan Paul climbs up to the top of a pod and hits a big splash off the top to get the elimination. So that's the first strike.
That's the first strike.
Yeah, the first strike in this match. Oh, no, I forgot it, because what led to this was Priest rolled up Drew. And then yep. Drew hit the Claymore. So Drew got eliminated first, then hit the Claymore, then Logan hit the Frog Splash. So that was the first strike against this match. You got yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, they gave every single guy except Drew one elimination, and they pretty much set Drew up to get an elimination until he got rolled up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that to me, that's what it felt like. Was the women's match felt like this fluid wrestling match. This one felt like everyone's going to get their shit in, kind of like a Rumble. And then every guy's going to get a pinfall. And then at the end, we're going to do a John Cena CM Punk match, which was awesome at the end.
And another loss for Drew. Like, they've really put this guy under. Like, in the last.
And he always gets, like, they really, I will say, commentary did a good job of this during the match, but pointing out how many guys were losing simply because they can't get over the fact that they hate each other. And I thought that they did it for Rollins, for Drew. Like, I thought that they did a good job hammering in both of those things, because they weren't over the top with it. And those, I think, are things that you should bring up, right? Drew got beat because he was so fucking consumed with embarrassing John Cena. Yeah. Rollins got beat because he's so fucking angry and hates CM Punk so much that it took his eyes off the ball, right? So I did like those things. But like, that seems to me like those are all of Drew's losses, right? Since last year's Mania, when Punk took him out and then he got pinned by Priest. It feels like all of Drew's losses are never like, I'm going to like actually get knocked out and pinned or submitted. It's like, I'm getting flash pinned or I'm fucking myself over. And I think it's getting to a point where they need to hit the next level of what this story is going to be, just because like you said, he's lost again. And now I think it's starting to get to the point where he's losing a little bit too much.
And even in his last real feud was like the straight up loss to Punk in the Hell in Cell.
Yep.
So they really need, and I think that's what's going to happen. Like, at WrestleMania, he's going to beat Priest. I'm pretty confident, and they'll try and reset him after Mania. But man, he's really been one of the MVPs of this company the last year or so.
Yes.
Like, he made that Punk feud like what it was.
They won feud of the year, right?
Yeah, in the Observer.
Yeah.
And it was over a friendship bracelet, and it's still one feud of the year. And he, like I said, his work on social media and all of that really took that whole thing to the next level. And I think he's a great performer. Hopefully they have something big for him after Mania.
Did you see his tweet after?
Yeah, yes, I did. Where he was like, hypocrites, Cena, another loss. And then he put the Ishii.
I am a sad man, right? Whatever you know about me.
Yes. Very, I do have to say, very, very funny. I love Drew, man.
Really happy to picture Drew McIntyre with that meme just saved like in his favorites folder.
Yes.
Oh, and dude, okay, so something I was going to say when we were talking about Damian Priest, this is just a tangent, but dude, imagine, okay, he could lead a faction with two brothers. Who am I thinking of? And it would be such a badass faction. Non-WWE guys.
Oh, two brothers?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know. The Colognes?
Saitos.
No, wait, that's TNA. Oh, sorry. But
Imagine Damian Priest leading the Saito Bros, and they're all just like hanging out in hot tubs, just like with,
yes,
like his old fucking things. They all got the long hair, the fucking like chin strap beards. Dude, that would be so sick.
I'm all for this 100%.
Jesse, if you're listening, make it happen, please.
Yes, Jess is the one that can do it. I think she has all the power secretly of this. I'm pretty sure she is listening too, to be fair. So I will talk to her about that. I'm planning to be on her show again very soon, by the way.
Awesome.
So if she doesn't listen, I'm going to bring this up. For sure. But can you imagine Priest in their music videos?
Dude, that would be so sick. That's what I'm saying. Oh my God, that needs to happen. If Lord Crew could get the Champion Carnival, can we at least get a Damian Priest run?
Well, you never know. They've got Zion there now. So.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah. So who knows? And I feel bad for him because like a lot of the narrative, because we know that Drew was pissed after the Rumble, because a lot of people say that LA Knight got in his way or whatever, and that led to some heat. A lot of people say that Drew was mad about his WrestleMania spot. He thought he deserved a better match than against Priest. But I think they could have a really good hard-hitting like beef match with each other, like in my opinion.
They just need to make it mean something, because you remember that match at Mania between Roman and Drew?
Yeah.
I think one of the main reasons it suffered, it was on 35 with like 14 other matches.
Yeah.
But it shows you that even with two massive stars, you need it to mean something, or else it's just a fucking match.
A Brock and Drew?
No, Roman and Drew. This was right after Roman returned from cancer.
Oh,
from
yeah.
battling cancer, and it
Drew
was like
still his original heel version.
Drew was his original heel version after coming up from NXT, and he was like teaming with Dolph or some shit. And it was like Roman came back like a month before Mania, and they set this up so quickly.
Yeah. I was not a big fan of Drew during that run. Like he came in as like a charismaless heel, like onto the main roster. It's like he's basically Dolph's bodyguard, pretty much. Was kind of his deal. And I remember he was talking about Roman during a promo, and he was like, "I'm gonna cut your face off and leave you a bloody mess and ruin your life and kill everyone around." And he was like talking crazy. And it's like, dude, this sucks. Like this promo you're cutting is like terrible. What the fuck? And he's like, "I'm going after your entrails all the way down to the white meat of the blood." And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? But once he turned babyface, he really unlocked a much better side of himself. And I think he's really got in tune with himself as a heel, like this run. So like you said, hopefully they could do something to make this match mean something. So they tease a big showdown with Punk and Cena, but then Seth rushes at Punk right away. And Cena pulls him off of Punk. And he's like, "Come on, man, don't be so mean." And Seth is like, "Fuck you, Cena. Like, go back and shoot your movies. I want to beat the hell out of him. His ass is mine."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Cena's like, "Well, okay, then I guess we're fighting." So then Seth and Cena go at it. I actually like the story beat of the match that they actually teased the big ending. They stopped it. They cut it off a couple of times with Seth being so crazy over Punk. So they come in. Logan tries to hit a buckshot lariat, and it hits both of them. Then he looks for another one on Punk, but he's back. They go back and forth at it, and in the end, Logan hits the go to sleep. Or no, Logan. Punk hits the go to sleep on Logan to eliminate him. So it's Punk, Cena, and Seth here. Cena lifts Seth up, and they hit the heart attack. And Cena and Punk hit the heart attack on Seth, which gets no reaction. For all the talk about this crowd being so great and the Triple H had at his press conference, I thought this crowd kind of sucked. Like, they didn't react much to Trish. They didn't react much to the heart attack, which should have been a super easy pop.
No,
like,
and you know what it makes me think of is, like, I mean, NBA, right? How the hardcore fans are essentially priced out of shows now.
yeah.
Where
Well,
it's
yeah,
like, and especially, you know, like, you get people who go to these shows less because they're into them and more so because it's sort of like a status thing, or like, I can afford this event, right?
yeah, this is a big event in town.
Exactly. So I think that you do get some of that stuff sometimes where it's like, I think of like a hardcore show, right? There was a title fight show I went to once, and they covered Some Kind of Hate by the Misfits. And it was like me and maybe two other people knew what song it was. And they like stopped after. They were like, how can you guys know who the fuck we are and not know who the fucking Misfits are? And it was like one of those things where it's like the sort of disconnect of like, yeah, you might have a fan who loves Roman Reigns, but that doesn't mean they know fuck all about the Hart Foundation and the actual roots of pro wrestling, right? And what it means to be in Toronto. Like even the history between Sammy and Kevin being Canadian as well. And I like, you know, I could definitely just be reaching here, but having been to some NBA games this year, and like I always personally just I ball out, but I payment plan the tickets, right? Because I cannot afford them straight up. So, but I always try to sit as close as I can. And like, man, those crowds fucking suck. It's just like tech people and fucking like corporate people, and they do not really watch the game, and they're just talking about business deals, and like they do not cheer. They do not really get into it, and it's just like crazy that these are the season pass holders.
I will say, at least in Memphis, the fans are pretty rowdy still. So it hasn't affected us much, but it will happen. It will happen eventually. It just will happen when Matt Hardy is not allowed at Grizzlies games anymore, as we saw on Saturday night. I'm so jealous, though. I really would have loved to have a Desmond Bain Wrestle Buddy, which they were giving out. It was wrestling night at the Grizzlies game on Saturday.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we do that every year. Usually it's like Jerry the King Lawler is doing something, or Dustin Starr or some indie guy here. But this time it was Matt Hardy. We saw Grizz hit a twist of fate, which is mind-boggling. But I think the people at your concert just proved that they did not watch WCW at the very least, because the Misfits were there.
Yeah.
as well.
The Jerry only era. That's right, man. Holy shit, with Vampiro.
Yeah,
right?
him and Vampiro. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Dark Carnival. Man, that was a weird era of everything. But
that was when I thought Vampiro was cool. That's how long ago it was.
Well, that was a long time ago. Well, hey, I thought Vampiro was cool too. There's a lot of stuff from the late 90s that doesn't age that well, to be honest. On there, but the Misfits were there. They weren't here, and nobody reacted to the heart attack, and it made me sad. But Seth got up. He beat the hell out of everybody, threw Cena through the pod, and they do this long, dramatic turn to where he finally looks at Punk, who's laid out in the ring. So he goes after him in the ring, starts beating the hell out of him. They go back and forth. Punk counters back, hits the top rope diving elbow. Finally, Seth counters him into the buckle bomb, turns that into the stomp for a near fall. We had Superman Punk in this match. Like, he kicked out of everybody's finisher here. He kicked out of the AA. Yeah.
The one that got me was his GTS, because I don't really see people kick out of the GTS often.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, Cena comes back in. He comes out. They all get mixed up. Punk hits the GTS. Cena grabs him for the AA, and then Punk falls on top of him for the elimination, like a true coward, stealing the pin from Cena. So that's when we go back and forth. And as I said, and as we both agreed, this is when the match got great. Like, this was I think the women's match was a better overall match, but the best part of either match was this part when it was Punk and Cena. The crowd clearly had nostalgia for these two coming together. This got one of the biggest reactions on the show. So they go at it. Cena hits the AA again, and he again kicks out here. Punk does. Is this how far we have to go to pin this man or do anything? Like, they gave him every protection in this match. And again, I'm not trying to be a Punk hater, but like, come on, man. Like, how much do we have to go through here?
The one thing that I would say to that is, like, the AA is definitely a move that over the past few years has changed into one of those finishers where it's like you have to hit multiple in order to get the win, like a crossroads or something, where it's like, yes, it's an efficient finisher, but you have, like, he also has that super avalanche version and all this shit, right? Where it's like the AA itself nowadays is simply not enough to get the job done, but kicking out of it at least still means something.
Well, it was after the stomp, after the pedigree, after the buckshot lariat. It's like, man, you can't like, he's just going on and on. They had some counter work. It was pretty loose, to be honest, I have to say. But they went back and forth looking for the STF. They told a decent story for that. Punk crawls to the ropes. Boom, Seth hits another stomp. Lays him out. He gets outside of the cage, and he has this maniacal look, Seth does, as he's watching on. Cena locks in the STF again, and he's like, again, Seth's laughing. Punk doesn't tap. The ref calls it. They said he's out cold. The match is over. Cena wins the chamber. No tap out, no pin. We cannot do that with this man, Phil Brooks, who has yet to do a job in his return to WWE since he's returned.
I do like how they keep it open though for this one. I will say, like, we got a tease of a match, not an actual one, and a finish, but not a definitive one, where I think Punk has a very good cause for a rematch post-Mania, probably.
From a storytelling standpoint, it actually totally works. Would you say like that?
Yes. I really like this finish. Like, from Punk going through the ropes to Rollins immediately hitting that stomp. Like, he hit his mark so well. Yeah. To then Cena not even thinking about whether or not, like, there was no conflict. And I think that was one of the first indications, right, in this match, not leading up to it,
right,
of what was going to happen after. Is there was no second thoughts from Cena. It was, I take him down even though he just got fucked over, right? Where maybe in the past that's not something we see from a Cena who, like in his match literally with CM Punk, is telling Vince and John Laurinaitis, I hate saying those names, but to go fuck themselves, that he wants to win it on his own, right?
Yep, that's a direct callback to their most famous match here, where he went the other way this time. Even though we're getting off into a tangent now, but I know that Money in the Bank match is so legendary to so many people. I always thought it was overrated, and their best match was the Raw match that they had, like a couple of years later.
Where he hit the pile driver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I thought that was a way better match. The other one was dramatic, and you got Punk winning, which everyone loved. But remember, I hated CM Punk even then, so that didn't grab me that much. But I thought the Raw match was phenomenal, and I love the callback to this, like the Money in the Bank match here. That, like you said, there was no like good guy bull crap here. He's like, no, I'm going for this. Like, it tells the story of a man who. He has 10 months left. He's desperate. Like, his legacy is literally in the balance. Like, will he break this record or forever be tied? And he just went for it. And I thought everything about it from a psychological standpoint was very good. I think the execution on some of it left some things to be desired, but there's no doubt this was the highlight of the show to me. In terms of a wrestling aspect, was all of this. And it was great. Like, I mean, I really have to give them credit for that. The inmates, they do disagree with me. They rated this match higher than the women's match. It was an 8.40 here. Again,
I think I would say that nostalgia definitely played a factor in these ratings. And I'm not saying that as a negative thing, but I think that
it worked. Like, the nostalgia totally worked in this match.
With an Owens and Zayn match, you were always going to have a ratings bias. And I say this as someone who has a ratings bias where Go Shiozaki is not capable of having less than a 4-star match to me, even if it's in a 3-man tag. with Akatoshi Saito in 2024. So like I totally get ratings bias, and I think that this was a show, like you said, they succeeded on the nostalgia.
Yeah, so it really worked. I'm probably closer to a 7 out of 10, like 3.5 star level. Like I said, I still think the other match was a little bit better, but the height of the show was the ending here, so I can't really go that much lower. You know, that 3.5 star level. So yeah, Cena gets the win here. The crowd's loving it. They're going crazy. Post-match, Cena's like, thank you guys, I love you, and all this stuff. And suddenly Cody Rhodes music hits. And he's coming down. I mean, it made sense by the end, but at least when it happened, I thought, why are they rushing this so much? Like, they couldn't have given this a full segment overall. But anyway, he comes out, and they're staring down. Cody's standing there with the belt. Cena's looking against them. They're dapping each other up. They're showing each other love and all this. And they're going crazy. The crowd's going crazy. Suddenly, Travis Scott comes out.
Okay, no, so sorry. They hit The Rock's music first.
They did.
And they play it for like 5 seconds, and it gets a massive pop. And then they switch to Fiend for like the 45th fucking time this night. And like, do we not that has to be the WrestleMania theme, right?
It feels like it.
Yeah.
I do have to say,
no more Weekend. What is it? Friendship with Weekend over. Travis Scott is now my best friend.
What about Drake being at the show
and not being shown?
Not being shown.
Dude, that shit was so funny.
That's awesome.
And they even mentioned like Logan Paul writing OVO on his fucking tube or pod or whatever, and they still didn't show him. God, I thought that was hilarious. Imagine being so culturally toxic right now that the WWE's not going to touch you. That's fucking insane. He got what he deserves. But so I thought the WWE really fucked up here because they played Rock's song. Massive pop, like one of the biggest of the night, bigger than Cena, bigger than Cody's that he just got. And then Travis Scott comes out, they switch the song, no pop. Crowd completely fucking dies immediately. Half of them probably don't know who he is. And then Rock's music hits again and he comes out and it's like kind of a pop, but not the one that was there before. I don't know why they did this like switch.
It had to be an accident, like that time Sammy came out to his heel theme accidentally. It had to be some kind of accident they did it this way. Because you're totally right. When he was standing at the top of the ramp, Mama and Ken were like, who is this guy? like who the hell is this guy? And I started to talk to him about it, and suddenly my mom walks in the room. And she's like, oh, yeah, Travis Scott. He's a rapper. He's had huge hits, and he goes on and on about Fame and all this. She goes on and on about Fame and all this. And they just look at her like she's nuts. And I'm like, I'm glad I didn't have to explain this. But yeah, what you said was accurate. They switched off the theme to the Rocks. And he comes out, and they both walk in together, Rock and Travis Scott. And they come in, and Rock says, Cody, it's time for you to do it. He's like, I want and I need your soul.
Dude, so also when Rock first walks in, he doesn't say anything. He just like he like holds Cody's face and like caresses it at first.
I told you this is the most homoerotic WrestleMania build ever. But yes, he showed his goosebumps off beforehand. And he was like, I want and I need you, Cody. And I need your soul. If you say yes, the American nightmare will live forever. And if you say no, the dream dies again.
No, sorry. And if you say no, the dream dies tonight. again. And then absolutely no reaction to this line from the crowd, which I think was supposed to be like a very big heel, like, how dare you, Christian, talk about a dad? And this went completely over the audience's fucking head. Did this line do anything for you or make you feel anything?
I thought it was like really good, actually. I was like, oh, like, okay.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, wow, you went there and like that was some good phrasing, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, that crowd could not have given a shit.
The Toronto crowd sucked. Like, let's call it spade a spade. Cody was like,
especially, sorry, real quick, but like when you compare them to the other international PLE crowds, those I would argue are the best wrestling crowds each year. Or like your France, your Berlin, like these guys are fucking nuts. And this crowd just really paled in comparison.
Hard agree to that. Puerto Rico was still the best one, though.
Yes. Oh my God, the Bad Bunny entrance.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Yeah, the dream dies tonight again. And Cody didn't even sell it either, to be fair. But he goes on and he says, Rock, I want it all. My soul does not belong to me anymore. And Rock is like smirking. He's like, yes, finally he's coming to me. Please give me a big hug. I want to feel you hug me, Cody, please. And then Cody's like, I gave my soul to this ring and these people a long time ago.
Boo.
Yeah, it was very cheesy. But then the part that gets a big pop is when he says, what I'm saying, Rock, is go fuck yourself without getting bleeped. And the crowd gives a huge pop to this.
Which was so funny because they were definitely censoring fuck you Logan chants earlier. To where I think they obviously asked for permission for doing this one beforehand, probably. And I guess something I would be curious if any listeners are there, if you watched International on Netflix, did they censor chants? Because they did on Peacock. So I'm curious to see if that was a Peacock thing only, or if they censored them on Netflix as well. Yeah.
I'd be interested to know that as well. Worth mentioning, during all of this whole segment, Travis Scott's just in the corner with his hardcore title belt or whatever he has with him. He's got some kind of self-made belt. And Cena is like hamming it up so big. And he's like, all right, you tell him, Cody, you're the man. I love you too, man. Can't wait for our epic main event match at WrestleMania. He's like, yeah, tell him, Cody. And then Cody's like, I can't wait to do this match the right way at WrestleMania. And so him and Cena shake hands. They bring each other to a hug. Rock showing he's just insanely jealous of Cena right now for this hug. He points at him. He throws up two fingers and then slits his throat. Like there's a throat slash. Like he doesn't slit his throat. He does a throat slash gesture to himself. And Cena, who was so over the top and really lame during this segment, they cut to his face and it's completely stoic. He has turned and he immediately hits a low blow, kicks Cody in the balls. Cena grabs Cody's watch, blasts him in the face with it, busts him open with the eye. Great blood, use of blood here. Hits him with the belt. All like Cena, Rock, and Travis Scott all pose together to the crowd, and they hold each other. Cena holds him face down, and Travis Scott holds him for the face up. Or he holds him face down, but at the top, at the head side, and he just pops Cody, hits him with a huge potato.
He slapped him so fucking hard. This was like Kazuyuki Fujita. Send Travis Scott to Noah, folks. Fucking hell.
Travis Scott, he's got a real.
Do you think Travis Scott went into business for himself, or you think Cody was like, hey, I don't believe that you can do a worked punch, so I just want you to fucking stiff me, brother? Because that seems like something Cody would do.
Yeah, I was about to say, I could totally buy that happening.
In the same segment where he's getting belt whipped again, that is such a Codyism now where he's like, brother, just pull me in that ring and whip me with that belt.
Well, that led to that amazing go-home angle last year at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Where he beat him up in the rain and beat his ass with the belt and bloodied him up. And that's a legendary segment. And, well, this will be too, I'm sure. As you said, Rock pulls his belt off. It says Cody's Soul on it in print. Beats him down. Beats him with the belt. Whips his back. He takes some of Cody's blood. Wipes onto the belt just like last year. And Cena, Rock, and Travis Scott back up the ramp and pose to signify everything's changed. So they finally did it after all of these years. John Cena is a heel.
Crazy. I'm really like, it makes sense and it doesn't for his last run.
Yeah.
Right? It makes sense in terms of now he has a complete career. In the sense of we got to see him play both sides, because, you know, how can you really describe someone's career if they've only ever played a babyface? Like, it's hard to, because it's only one half of the coin in pro wrestling, right? And when you talk about the all-time greats, someone like a Bryan Danielson, who we've seen go back and forth so seamlessly and so well, right? I mean, even someone who I'm not popular with, like a Hogan, who is always brought up in these conversations, though, I don't think he has that same career without his NWO run, right? So this is wrestling history. Not as big as when I won in Magic this past week, but it is wrestling history nonetheless. Do you think Travis Scott is part of the faction? Like, will we see him regularly?
Well, first of all, I did have to start off with the big news of your Magic win. But secondly, like, this is this generation's NWO turn. Like, you know, something that nobody thought would happen at a really bizarre time, because, I mean, he did have the Doctor of Thugonomics run, which started as a heel, but he quickly became a babyface because he was, like, so entertaining that the crowd turned him on his own. And from there, it was all straight up babyface. He spent so many years of my childhood with the crowd hating this man and booing him at every opportunity they got. And it took them over a decade of this, and finally the crowd accepted him and loved him and respected him as a legend. And only then is the time to turn him heel. It's such a weird career arc, you know?
So yeah, too little, too late, or the right time? Or remains to be seen or determined?
That's where I'm at. Like, to be determined. Because the problem is, there's a possibility Cena walks out on Raw Monday and gets a standing ovation. Like, for finally turning heel.
Do they fuck themselves over and AEW Cody here?
That's exactly the fear that you have to have with all of this. Is that the fans side with Cena as a heel? That fucks up this whole storyline.
And maybe they're going off of last year. You know, which got
was a spectacular success.
They got Rock booed against Cody, which is, you know, maybe just as much of a feat as it is a Cena. So maybe they have the faith, you know. Obviously, I imagine that it's hard for me to picture that this wasn't the plan all along now.
I think it was.
Yeah, like I can't imagine that this is something that was decided a couple weeks ago when Rock came back, you know. So because to have a Cena heel turn, this feels like he's going to win the title, and this is going to be something that is like the year-long angle. Who defeats John Cena for the fucking world title after his all-time setting reign? Also, it's going to be really nice when he breaks the record, so Ric Flair's no longer in the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be sick.
What a way. Isn't it just the right way, though, too? The last year of his career, Cena wins LOL every month. No one can beat him. And that's the story. Who is that one man, which unfortunately would have worked a lot better had they protected him more in the last decade? Because if you look at his run, it's been all L's, like, you know, pretty much. Theory, Solo, going back to Roman, going back before that. It's like, it's all L's. Rusev got a win over him in a singles match. You know, they did not protect him at all. And I think if he had been this unbeatable force to finally turn heel, I think would have meant this story that we're proposing would have meant a lot more.
On the flip side, does it not make more sense that he turned heel simply because he is no longer an unstoppable force?
Good point. And I hope that they tell that story with each other. Cody should cut a promo saying that exact same stuff that I said on there and say, this is why you had to sell out. Which is they did cut the fans chanting "You sold out" at Cena. Travis Scott, I don't know what involvement he has in this. It felt like such a random.
I thought he was smoking weed again in the corner because Michael Cole Pat McAfee kept being like, Travis Scott burning sage. And then I realized he literally was burning sage. And I was like, interesting. But, I was like, that is a very cool pro wrestling thing that he already went in with like his little gimmick. Like I burned sage in the ring and he like kind of like did that like burying Cody thing. Like, I don't know, like cleansing his soul or whatever. So I appreciated that little thing. I still would have preferred that he just smokes. Imagine, dude, during the John Cena heel turn, you just have a guy smoking weed in the background the entire time. That makes sense.
Even this whole thing is so weird. That's something that's going to be looked upon 20 years from now, where they'll be like, yeah, that Cena heel turn, that was great and all, but what the fuck was Travis Scott doing there?
Looking at Mania now, like, okay, so a few questions here. Do they add more people, or is it just Travis Scott, Rock, and Cena?
I think I don't know what the status of Travis Scott's touring schedule is, but it's hard for me to believe. Maybe they could shoot some videos with him, which they should. Like, there needs to be some explanation. Why is he here? Like, what does he have to do with any of this? Ultimately, if he's going to be a recurring character, they need to have him cut some kind of promo or video package, even if it's just that The Rock bought him off too. Like The Rock paid superstars to show how much stroke he has. He could have signed any superstar he wanted to join him. And now Cena will be in his next movie or something like that.
Because in my head, the biggest program that you could do right now is night one of Mania. You do a trios match for the main event. You do Rock, Cena, and Travis Scott versus Roman, Cody, and Bad Bunny. And I say that in full fucking seriousness, dude. That is the biggest match they could do right now, in my opinion. Is you do an inverse of last year's with like the baby face heel roles reversed. Like Cena helped Cody, Roman went against him, and then you bring in two of the biggest, musical artists in the country, or the world, I should say. And I think, like, dude, you really, and then also Phil's not in the main event, and my prediction stands.
I don't think he's gonna be in the main event either, like no matter what. I think this is the plan all along, and I think night one is going to see Jey Uso get 80,000 people yeeting, and then night two is going to be Cena destroying Cody Rhodes.
So we really think Jey Uso will main event night one with Gunther?
I think that's why they're doing this dramatic heel turn. You get the amazing pop night one, and then the heel victory night two. I think there'll be two inverse reactions of each other.
So do you think Rock gets into the ring at all between now and after Mania? Like, I would say Raw after Mania.
Well, he said in his press conference that he's like, we don't need to do a match.
Yep. But do you believe him?
I mean, why would he say that if he was going to wrestle anyway? I mean, maybe it's all like maybe it's Rock, so it might be all kind of some kind of swerve after all. I feel like WrestleMania would be incomplete if Rock doesn't have a match on it. Like, since he's so heavily involved.
That's why I really could see them, even if it's not with the pop stars, you could even just have them cornering so they do a spot in the middle.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, they could have a tag match.
Totally. Because you also had Bad Bunny tweet last night, just wow. And I don't know why, but that made me think that he could get involved.
A lot of people simple little this tweet. Turn.
Yeah. But with the inclusion of Travis Scott, right? And yeah, because dude, Rock and Cena versus Roman and Cody, I mean, that on paper is bigger than last year's match of Rollins,
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's really, and to me, I feel like this is a company that's not, and Jey Uso is proof of this. They're not waiting to do matches anymore.
Yep. Actually, again, we never really talked about Jay's Rumble win, but I mentioned it the last week. I really wasn't that against it because it was a legit surprise, and it serves a purpose. I don't think it'll be a great match. It won't be great for me personally, but I think it serves a very good purpose to have this kind of mega reaction for a babyface that he will get. But like I said, the problem with all of this is it depends on the fans how they take the heel Cena. Because if they're on his side, then that totally overwrites what I said. Then it doesn't matter.
They got to have shit planned to just make him truly despicable.
Man, I don't know what they could do. I mean, that's the thing. Last year, yes, it's true that The Rock got booed, but he's also The Rock. Like say what you want about him. When he's at his peak, when he's locked in, there's nobody better than him at promos to where he can even talk people into hating him. Cena, we've never seen Cena as a true heel outside of the rap gimmick. And that turned to babyface. This is going to be a serious, like you said, despicable heel. How will he play that? I mean, it's just up in the air. So I think once we see that, probably by the time we see him in the ring next, I thought it was a great touch in the press conference afterwards to just have him drop the mic and not say anything. His promo should be a main event segment on Raw or wherever. And I think that it'll be a huge topic. Like, that's a huge draw. Like 2 or 3 weeks from now, Cena will be on Raw to address the crowd. People are going to tune in for that. So they need to really be careful about how they build that. So very exciting. I thought like the execution and everything of it and the timing of it was all fantastic. Like the turn.
Okay, so do you think he's on Raw tomorrow, or they wait for SmackDown since this is technically a SmackDown storyline?
I think they should wait. I think they should wait even further than SmackDown. I think they should draw this out for 2 or 3 weeks.
Like you don't see him for 2 to 3 weeks?
Exactly. Like have everybody talk about the ramifications of this. I would have baby faces on every show saying I can't believe it. Because they don't do that a lot where like storylines cross over that much. But here's a chance where you have something where it's like you could have somebody say that Cena was my hero and not R-Truth. Because like we know he'll do that. But have someone say they grew up watching Cena. This guy is a legend, and he never did this before. I cannot believe it. I'm heartbroken. Like I need some damn answers about this. And I would have Cena. Maybe The Rock comes out and says something to the effect of, "Cena doesn't owe you trailer park trash crackheads any answers." Like he did. Remember when he went in Phoenix? He said that.
I was there for it.
Yeah, yes, you were. And just kind of promo like that. And he'll tell you what he wants to tell you on his own time. And just, I wouldn't wait forever, but like wait a week or two.
Imagine Friday, it's like Rock, Cena, and Travis Scott come out, and like they walk in the ring, and like Rock grabs the mic and shakes his head, no, and then he hands it to Cena. Cena's about to talk. No. He hands it to Travis Scott, and Travis Scott just takes the mic. He's like, now you're all probably wondering why I did what I did. Travis Scott just cuts a 15-minute promo detailing why he turned on Cody, and then we never hear from Cena and Rock.
Well, we do need that promo from Travis Scott. Maybe not a 15-minute one, but, we'll see what happens overall. But I would build to it because I think that's a legitimate draw. It just depends on what show they value more. Between Raw and SmackDown, do you want the ratings on USA or do you want the Netflix numbers? But Cena, his first statement should be a drawing segment. I don't think you just do it on Raw and with no build to it.
True.
At the very least, if they were going to do it on Raw, it should be announced. Like it should already be announced. He will be on Raw at 9 o'clock Eastern. Like lay the time out. Like, he will be there. Remember that time they did the Cody clock?
Oh my God.
That's what they need with
Yes.
Cena. Like, the whole show, there needs to be a timer in the corner saying, in 2 hours, John Cena will hit the ring and explain himself. That's what I would do. But like I said, I think that the angle was an all-time memorable angle. Like, this is something that's going to be remembered forever. Will the fans derail it is my one concern. Because like I said, I think there is a very real possibility that they cheer him throughout all of this. Because that's the problem with this. The fans don't want to boo Cena. Oh, ultimately. Like, he is a hero to a lot of their fans, like, who grew up watching him. And they want him to be a heroic champion. So they're going to have to fight that tide. And they proved last year that they can do it. And maybe Cena can be just as good as Rock and make this work well. And maybe by the end of this turns into Cody becoming an even bigger babyface throughout all of it. But I do think we have to question if the fans will side with Cena.
Looking at this from like a beginning to end thing, my only my big worry right now is that Cody would be the one to defeat Cena in the end. And I don't think Cody needs that type of rub. I would like to see it be another superstar that really can be elevated to a Cody level.
And who do you think that could be?
I mean, I heard rumors that Kona Reeves might resign.
I think that's who we all thought of first. I just think it's a little too obvious to be Kona Reeves.
Yeah. No, I mean, at this point,
What about Braun Breaker?
Not my choice, but definitely could be the pick. If we're talking NXT guys, why not Ricky Saints?
Ricky Saints, yeah. Oh, that would piss so many people off. Like, so many AEW fans would not like that, I don't think.
But I don't know. I mean, anyone that you can think of off the top of your head?
I mean, I feel like Braun's the one they've really built the best of everybody. Gunther's a heel, so that doesn't work.
And I wouldn't want to see babyface Gunther against heel Cena. I think that's my biggest issue, by the way, with the Jey Uso win is I just don't want to see Jey Uso beat Gunther for the world title. That's really it. That's my biggest hang up.
I agree. I'm not sitting here saying Jey Uso's anywhere near the caliber of wrestler Gunther is. But I think for the spectacle of WrestleMania, they want that yeet like going on there. I mean, that's just my opinion. Maybe I'll be wrong. I'm certainly happy to have Gunther. I did love Gunther's promo where he walked out like Jey Uso from the crowd. It was very good. And when he said, "I learned box office. I'm convinced these people that my shitty title reign is actually me on purpose." On there. Gunther rules, man. I don't want to see him ever lose the title if it were up to me.
Yep.
The worst option, because the thing is, the way they're setting this up, the man that has the biggest gripe with Cena is the one who did not tap out in that chamber tonight. And that's what I'm afraid of. Because he really doesn't need it at all. I'm looking at the baby.
I can absolutely see Punk like sorry. I think that no matter who Cena faces, that's the main event of every show going forward this year. And so no matter whether you're the first or the last, I think that it's all going to be that main event program. So, I don't see Punk personally as the one to take it off of him, but I can definitely see him being probably one of the top 3 stories coming out of this reign.
True. Can we get a babyface Jacob Fatu?
Ooh. Jacob Fatu would actually be crazy as a pick.
I would love that. I think he's one of the hottest characters right now that they have. Yeah. You could easily turn a babyface against Solo. And maybe by 8 months from now, that could be the big match for him.
So Cena's last pay-per-view is December, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it is.
I think he should hold the title until then. If it were up to me.
Oh, yeah. There's no reason. I mean, he drops the title before then, and then what happens?
Yeah, exactly. This is another fear of mine, that this heel turn lasts for 5 months and then they turn him back babyface.
Yeah. Commit. If you're going to do this, fucking commit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't go halfway. Make him the biggest asshole like he was to Nikki Bella on Total Divas that we saw. Like, we need none of that bullcrap. Turn babyface again. He needs to be a true heel. And that's a fear of mine. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's something I'm thinking about. But yeah, Ricky Saints, he's going to be pushed on NXT for sure as one of the top baby faces.
And I mean, I say him just as someone I would invest in. I don't think he's anywhere near that level in WWE yet. Of course, the dude just debuted, but
I think especially coming off of our conversation last week about him in NXT, especially considering this happened, which I don't think either of us suspected, to say the least. I think Cody making a phone call to he needs a friend because nobody else came out to help him, and he was the one that came out, I think would have done a lot. And I think the fans would have bought it. Because they know their personal history. They know he's a big steal from AEW. And they set it up perfectly. Why didn't anyone come out to help Cody when he was getting his ass beat in the middle of the ring? You know? To have him be the one guy Cody has left. And I thought that would be a huge angle for him to come in. I think that would have been a lot better than what they did.
NXT.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I agree. You really sold me on it last week. But especially after this, I think that would have been a great spot for him. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, there aren't a lot of young baby faces they built up, to be honest with you.
Man, you could even do an Obafemi. Honestly,
yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Now that I think about it, he would be, yeah.
Yeah, I could totally get behind that too.
Sadly, I don't think Carmelo's that type of player anymore in the grand scheme. When I look at people, there's Ilya, right? Ilya
that would be great.
Cena would be a fucking banger, assuming that Ilya's healed up in time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, obviously they just sent Drew and Damian to the SmackDown roster.
Yep.
So, but it's gonna be interesting because Punk's on Raw.
Yep. I think they have no problem breaking these rules when they see fit. But just as a fan, I still think there's a great story to be told with Gunther. Like, this could be a way to get him as a babyface. Have him lose the title and then immediately come out and say, I lost the title, but I did it with honor. And the man who won that belt in the night 2 disgrace the legacy of this great sport and this great ring. I think that would be a great feud for Gunther, a great feud for Cena, and I just want to see that match. I want to see Gunther face Cena in a one-on-one match. That's me as a fan. But I don't think he's the one to win the title ultimately. If things play out how we think, they've got 10 months to find that person out, who they want that to be. So there's plenty of time. But I love our ideas for at least one-off matches, during the year with Ilya, Gunther. Punk is definitely going to be in there. And they could get some wild card people in there as well. So I love the angle. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great story to go into WrestleMania. And at WrestleMania, because let's face it, that Jay and Gunther match, it's not that hot. It's good to the live crowds. But it's not, it's not that mainstream buzz like the last couple of years have been. It's not that epic main event match that WrestleMania needs. And both of the women's matches are cold to this point. So they needed something big, and this was about as big as you could get. Now this WrestleMania feels like one of the biggest. And like you said, if they do that tag match scenario you played out with Travis and Bad Bunny, or even just the tag match with Cena and Rock and Roman and Cody, this will be even bigger than last year was. So I think we have to praise them for turning it around like that. One more question, because I think they've broken off with Damian and Drew, and Seth and Punk was set up very well as well for WrestleMania. Do you think Roman will be involved? Or will they have something for him with the main event with Cody and Cena?
I could see him doing a tag match leading up to, I really think that they could do a Rock and Cena versus Roman and Cody.
Which is a lot better than the proposed triple threat they were seemingly leaning towards with him, Punk, and Seth.
Yep.
And we need that. We need to figure out what Punk's favorite was too for Heyman. That's never been resolved either. But it's just interesting that we talked about it offline. I texted it to you. It wouldn't surprise me if Roman saw this coming, that Rock was going to come in, and he picked like the perfect time to go dark with this injury that he had. I'm not sure I'm buying that injury as much. And to be honest, if it's just him versus Seth and Punk, then that's not a great match. Like for him to be in. That's not a hot match to me. As much as Punk may be over with the fans. I think that him in a tag match, that would be perfect. Like, I think that's the best case scenario, and it fixes the card. Because if it was Roman and Punk and Seth, that leaves a big hole on night one, and the triple threat match makes everything worse. And whoever Cody was going to face would not be as hot as it is right now. So they have to figure out what to do with Roman as well. Otherwise, I guess we'll see what happens Monday with Io and Ripley, and if they have some kind of angle plan for that, or if it's just a straight up win for Rhea. How they follow up Naomi and Jade. That's the one good thing about the show, because I don't think this was a great show, Elimination Chamber, but I thought it set up so much for the future. It felt like a huge event. And I think they succeeded on that end. And it feels like truly the go home show to Wrestle, like the go home PLE to WrestleMania, at least. So I think they did a great job with that. And I'm interested in where all of these directions are going. Good stuff there, my opinion.
Totally agreed.
All right. Well, I think that's about it for this episode. We went over everything we could with Elimination Chamber. One of the more newsworthy shows in years and years was Cena's heel turn. We got Revolution coming up next week. Yep. What's your hype level for that?
Pretty minimal.
Especially after this angle that happened on it. I felt bad because like AEW got like skewered on Twitter after this angle happened because they made the stupid mistake of announcing the Outrunners getting a tag title shot at the same time the Cena heel turn was happening. And everyone was like, dude, what the like WWE's got Cena heel turn, you're giving us the Outrunners?
Yep.
Like everybody buried him. They had to delete the tweet.
Oof.
I feel bad because the Hurt Syndicate rules, and they should never be the victim of any negative feelings from the fans. Even though this angle was stupid that they did with the music interrupting the Outrunners and the murder monsters, her murder machines. The Takeshita and Orange Cassidy match ruled on Dynamite. Yeah, that was a fantastic match. There's no reason Takeshita and Omega can't be great. Like I said, my main concern with it is that there are too many big matches and something's going to have to lose out on time. And I don't know which one will it be. Will it be the cage match? Will it be Omega and Takeshita? It's not going to be. I'm telling you, it will not be that main event. It should be. They should just cancel that match and put the cage match as the main event. I think is what they should do. But we know they won't, unfortunately. So, like you said, I'm with you that the show hasn't been that well built, even though it feels like they have a lot of matches that are designed as big blow-off matches. I just think they're missing some things here and there overall. But I think as a show, though, it will be a great show. Like, if all goes well, there's no reason that Revolution show can't blow this one away in terms of match quality.
No, and I totally agree. Like, we talk about this a lot, but it's a pretty common thing to go into an AEW pay-per-view with pretty minimal hype and then to get a remarkable show.
You've got Ricochet and Swerve. I think that's a big candidate to not be as great as we think it might be with all the other matches on the show. But that's been pretty well built with Nana. MJF and Hangman. Again, the cage match with Ospreay and Fletcher. Mercedes and Momo Watanabe, where she swung the bat at Mercedes. She ran away saying, "Oh my God," and ran away, which is pretty funny. That storyline is so dumb if you follow Stardom at all. Like, Momo, a part of this cult group in Stardom, is just a babyface in AEW. Like, just because she's feuding with Mercedes. Very funny. Timeless Tony Mariah, the Hollywood ending. This is the match we speculated on in the last AEW review we did for the Australia show. And they did come through with it. Takeshita Omega and Moxley versus Cope for the AEW title. Presumably without the Death Riders there, depending on what happens with Yuta like this Wednesday. But and Big Boom AJ is going to make his return as well, teaming with Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe versus the MXM collection.
That'll be fun.
It will. But thank you guys so much for listening to Wrestle Update. Love that we're doing the shows more regularly. Love that we got so much cool stuff going on in wrestling that we can talk about. Nello, you've got to go to GCW. You've got to bring the barbed wire. You've got to bring. Can you bring any kind of weapon you want? Or what?
I want to bring a cactus.
Yes, that's my favorite.
I want to bring like Arizona iced tea cans and cut them in half, like empty them out and cut them in half for the can board. Just like a Sonoran death match. I want to do a baseball bat with like jumping choya on them. These are just horrible things. And I'm like, I'll just bring weapons to the show and hopefully they use them. But yeah, hoping for a real sicko show.
Please, Nello, if I mean anything to you as a human being, bring the cactus.
Okay.
We need more cactuses in wrestling. I have always been the one who loves the cacti in wrestling. The best kind of death match, the desert death match with the cactuses that they used to have in Big Japan. Sick of light tubes. Need more cactus.
More cacti in wrestling, please.
That should be the motto of Wrestle Update.
Takeda is the cactus guy. For sure. If there's a cactus guy, I've seen him bring it out the most.
And we love Takeda for many reasons, but that is one of them.
Okay, before we go real quick, have you seen Iolento Jack versus Hideyoshi Kamitani from February 24th? No canvas death match?
Oh.
No, not a lot of glass, but dude, one of the sickest no canvas death matches in terms of like the bumps these dudes are willing to take on the planks.
And that's interesting because Kamitani was a late bloomer to the deathmatch scene.
Yep. It's really sick. They're doing a lot of cool little deathmatch main events right now with the Freedom's Big Japan crossovers. So highly recommend that one.
I will do everything I can to find that because that does sound pretty awesome. I've always respected Violento Jack, and Kamitani was once my guy many years ago. And it's still very good now that he's a deathmatch wrestler. So a great shout out there. Watch that. Watch the Kevin Steen El Generico Fight Without Honor. Watch wrestling. Anything you like, anything you love, even if you hate it, at least give it a chance. But most of all, hopefully everything's going okay with everyone out there. March is here. Spring is right around the corner. Want to see some good vibes for everybody as winter eases up. I hope you guys always remember the most important part of every show, every edition, every episode, and that is that I love you. And until next time, this has been your Wrestle Update.